customers to click. I think you and I can have an awesome conversation. I got a chance to look at your website and see what you do. And then also, I love what you put about interactive intake systems on the form. That's a topic that is continuing to, I think, become more and more popular, but people aren't sure how to actually implement them in their business. So yeah, do you mind just jumping in and getting started?
Let's do it. Yep.
Let's do it. So again, I loved that you put conversation in the pre-show forum about interactive intake systems. And I'm someone that nerds out about interactive ways to engage customers, because I feel like now everything has to be an experience of some sort. If you just give someone a bland contact us form or simple intake form, it kills momentum, in my opinion. And I think people are just expecting more from companies. So can you just nerd out on that a bit? Yeah.
They're absolutely, you're 100% correct. And I think there's like two really distinct kind of avenues to look at it. And one is from the business perspective. I want you to make that initial brand impression with a potential client immediately, right? Like a form, you get like an automated, we've received your form, we'll respond back in 2 days, maybe. Or you leave a voicemail or, whatever. That doesn't really get your user, your client, anything they need right away. And it doesn't set any kind of tone or brand expectation. They don't feel like, okay, they've got me. They know, they understand my problem. They're going to reach out. It doesn't give you anything to work from. It doesn't really warm up your lead that way. So I think from a business perspective, and I get a lot of pushback sometimes from businesses that are like, well, I don't want to put, AI into it. I don't want to lose the human touch. And I'm like, I hear that. But if the alternative is that they're submitting a contact form and it's taking you 2 days to get back to them, you've already lost that lead. That first 5 minutes is critical. So I think the brand impression, if you're immediately getting them a resource they need or a link to schedule, or, maybe even sometimes it's just disqualifying a lead because they're not in the right place. And it's wasting their time to fill out a form that's not going to get them anywhere. And they might even be waiting on your response instead of moving forward with somebody that can actually help them. So it's not helpful to anybody in that kind of scenario. So from a brand impression, I think it's super important to have that immediate impact with your client. Those first 5 minutes matter so much. So I think that's kind of one bucket to look at it in. And then on the other side, from a client interactive perspective, right? Like assuming, I'm a client, I'm reaching out to somebody, I don't want to get on a call that they don't already understand that I'm in the right place, what I need, if they can help me. We've all gotten on those uncomfortable Zoom calls where the price point is nowhere where we want to be, or it's not the right service. Like, it's a huge waste of your time and the business's time. So I think these really personalized intake routes serve both audiences. And I think that's what's really important, is it's not just about making it easier for the business. It is also about making it easier for your client as well. And then to your point, because of sort of the hyper personalized nature of everything now, right? Like, we no longer just expect a generic response. We want high personalization. When that happens, I think people are more likely to immediately feel like they're ready to take a next step. And so I think it improves that warming up process for them as well. And you're absolutely right. The people expect you to know, like I work with a client that does horse feed, like a horse nutrition supplement, right? And like, these people expect us to know the horse's name. They, like all of these details that you can't get unless you're having, some sort of interactive process with them ahead of time. So I think it's such a good way to improve your intake and your brand impression all at once.
Yeah, totally. I've noticed that if set up correctly, it can also give the future customer on the other side a ton of value in a quick period of time.
It can.
That on top of that, qualifying them for your business, right? So
Absolutely.
you mentioned getting pushback from people. Like, is there any, or some people, is there any like trends that you've seen in that pushback of why they're giving it, outside of just like, I understand the human side and not wanting to have the process or experience feel robotic, but there's ways around that. Is there anything else that you're noticing they're saying?
No, that tends to be the biggest one. And I think the other fear is losing, I think the fear is like, well, what if there was something I could say to them that would make them the right lead? And then I kind of bring it back to like, let's define your ideal customer. And if your marketing isn't speaking directly to them, we've all gone down that rabbit hole, right? Of being like, oh, that's not really what we do, but like we could make that happen, right? And now you're custom building. Now you've gone down some road that you're going to regret. So I think that's the other one I hear is like, but what if? And I'm like, let's define who our ideal client is and make sure that we are targeting them exactly. And then we don't have to worry about that. But I certainly think it's the brand impression. And I see that both, from a business fear, but then I for sure, I spend time on social media. I for sure see people say, if I call a business and voice AI answers, I'm hanging up. I'm not dealing with it. And that's happening. That's absolutely happening. I'm not trying to convince people that there aren't, those sort of naysayers that are against that initial process. But I think we're trending towards more acceptance of that. I think over, in the same way that somebody didn't used to like being handed a tablet at a doctor's office to fill out their paperwork. Now that feels totally normal. That's absolutely the way we do it. So I think just the evolution of that is moving in that right direction. And then again, I say it's entirely how you do it. If you've got like a robotic sounding voice AI agent that's just like, click here to do this or dial, then you're probably not making a great brand impression. But if on the other hand, you've got this really great guided intake system, whether it's voice AI, whether it's an online like interactive tool, whatever it is, if you've got it nailed down, your right customer is going to appreciate that you've done that for them. And I think that matters a lot too.
That's a great point about it being the right customer, attracting the right customer that's going to go through that experience. I've told companies that I've worked with, and I introduced it in my customer journey as well, this topic of friction. I actually think introducing some friction is good, but I think, and you can probably resonate with this, as founders, you do have this like, oh my God, though, what if somebody was going to be qualified and they don't end up going through that? But I've gotten to this point, at least in my founder journey, where I'm okay with that. Like, I would rather attract the right people and give them friction. Have you seen that as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I honestly think you're doing yourself like a true service by reducing that mental load of like, but what if or maybe, I haven't thought about that yet. Because, as founders, right, like we've got 47 different business ideas going through our head all day, every day. And sometimes those horse blinders can be really helpful to like keep you on track for sure. So I think that's a great example for sure.
I've told companies too, you want to work with someone that's willing to go through a little bit of friction and give you some information versus someone that's going to just go through the standard contact form and drop their email. I've seen so many people, including myself, waste a ton of time chasing people down that are just not qualified at all.
Totally. The freebie chasers, the PDF downloaders that goes to die in an inbox, right? Like we've all done that. But to the point of the lead intake too, if you're doing it right, you're also collecting that basic information, hopefully email. That's obviously always your best bet, but you're collecting some basic information. So I think, assuming you've got like a good long-term nurture sequence in place, you've got some other info on your business that they might get, maybe a newsletter, something like that. If maybe they're not perfectly qualified right now, but they might become qualified later, or maybe they're able to self-identify like, oh, I need that. I think you can still nurture that lead, but you're getting your hot leads right where you need them, direct contact. And then, let's build that email list. Let's see, if there's an opportunity down the road, send them to your socials, let them get familiar with your content, that kind of stuff. But I want to isolate, hey, this person is in the right place. We can help them. Let's get them to the right next step as quickly as possible.
100%. And I think you brought up a good point about nurturing too. I think with the hyper personalization and dynamic nature of interactive intake systems, you're able to get some good information up front. And as I mentioned before, provide a ton of value actually to the lead. So guess what? In a few months later, you can reply back to them and be like, hey, we got these results from you. Like, is this still relevant? Would love to chat. Like, there's so many different things you can do with that information.
Absolutely. Yeah. 60 days later, if they haven't turned, hey, I know you were struggling with this. How is that going? Do you still want to talk about it? Depending on, what kind of services you provide, maybe you can help route them to the right nurture. You can customize the heck out of those nurture sequences after. And, maybe this lead needs a resource or, something to kind of move them through the process. And this lead needs to go straight to your booking calendar because they are ready to buy, and you can isolate based on their answers and send them to the right path. And again, benefits you as the business. And I think it benefits the end user as well, because there's too much noise. There's too much going on. There's 1,000 solutions for every problem you have, and helping kind of guide people to that right next step, I think is really, really important.
Is there anything that you've noticed about people and companies going wrong with AI? I'd be curious to hear your take on this because I have a few thoughts.
There's so many. Obviously the security issue is a major one right now. I see a lot of businesses. The beauty is we can all build an app easily now, which is awesome, and I love that. And it's getting us to market faster. It's awesome. But there's a lot of security gaps there. There are a lot of people who are developing things, putting them out there into the wild that have not done kind of the back end work on it. So that's a little scary. I worry about that for sure for clients. And then I think the other one is not having an actual AI strategy. I come into a lot of businesses where they're like, yeah, well, Paul and Susie use Claude sometimes for this. And, we've got this system over here, and we've got Gamma, they list tools to me. They give me their 15 tools. And first of all, it's way too many. And second of all, there is no internal protocol. They're not all using the same AI. There's been no brand training or skill training. So I think, I'm obviously super pro AI. I want people to embrace these tools, but I also don't want you to just grab the next shiny object off the, shelf and say, cool, we've got an AI strategy. What is that tool actually doing for you? Have we vetted it? Are we making sure it is giving the right impression? So I always encourage people, start slow. Find that one workflow, that one thing that would just take some time off your plate, that is manual and repeatable, and start there and then build up. I think the biggest risk is when people, and I've seen it, right? I've seen organizations be like, we're going entirely AI. Let's fire everybody, bring in all the AI. Not really the right approach. Slow and steady, controlled integration. So that's a lot of what I coach people on is let's find the strategy. Let's find where this is impactful and actually do this in a meaningful way and not just, throw ChatGPT at it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I think that's because the AI tools nowadays are so easy to just onboard and use immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you don't have a strategy going into it, you're basically just going to end up probably using it as a basic search tool at the end of the day. I've heard so many people complain about not getting the right output with AI and spending so much time with it. Well, I'm like, hey, did you actually spend time giving it context? Did you spend time setting up your company brain for it, right? And the answer is no.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I absolutely start everyone is we start with the brand training before it touches anything else. Before we're automating anything, it needs to understand who you are, who you serve, what you do, what you don't do. So yeah, that brand training, incredibly important. Your guardrails, what to never do, what to never promise, never say, those are really, really key. Maybe more important than anything else, right? What should it never do? We need to make sure it knows to do that or not do that. So yeah, when I hear the generic output or it all sounds the same, then either your brand sounds the same, which nobody wants to hear, but it's sometimes true. And sometimes we need to do more brand strategy to get away from that. It's not the AI, it's just the AI is exposing that problem a little bit more. AI is great at exposing problems that already exist in your workflow. Like, it's like, never use AI to solve a problem. It's just going to exacerbate that problem faster, bigger, better. That's not where I like to use it. So yeah, the brand training, super important. The input, also really important. I'm not a big pusher of like prompt engineering and being so highly specific and spending an hour trying to write a prompt. That's not effective either. But there are some best practices. There's certainly some, one thing I tell people all the time is give it the goal. Don't give it the steps. Tell it what you want and let it figure out the steps, because it's a machine brain. It's different than yours. Tell it the outcome, what you need, and then let it get there. So I think, and you can use AI, frankly, to build your brand strategy, right? Like, think tank with it, play off of it. But if your input is weak, your output is going to not be what you want either.
Yeah, that's why I think services like yours can be super valuable to a company, because it's so important to understand, like, at a high level what your strategy is with AI, but then getting down into the details about, like, why are you truly using it? What are you doing with it? Is it actually helping you make money? I'm sure you've been in plenty of situations where you dive into a company that's using AI and you're like, you guys don't actually need to be using AI for this, right? Like, you can still just use a human for this. It's fine.
So, yes, sometimes it is just making things worse. And like, as an AI consultant, I have to come in and be like, actually, we're going to take that out. Like, let's not do that anymore. I know I'm pro AI, but like, not in this use case.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I have to shut things down where I'm like, that has gone so far off the rails and nobody can catch it now. Let's just scrap that.
Totally. I'd be curious, is there any specific solutions that you find people are contacting you to help with the most? I know you do a few different offerings, but would just be curious, like, what you're seeing in the overall landscape and what you find people are requesting the most.
Yeah, so the biggest one I would say is AI or just general digital visibility in 2026, because that has changed so much because of AI. We are not a Google-centric universe anymore. Nobody is clicking down 10 blue links on Google anymore. So SEO, still super important. SEO is not dead. You need that, but you also need to, have some answer engine strategies, some generative engine strategies. Your content needs to be machine readable and human readable, which is a new one. So I get the visibility a lot. I get, like, we're not being recommended on ChatGPT ever. We're not showing up in the answer snippets. And I can address all those things. We've got great programs for that. But a lot of times I actually kind of have to back them up to the brand training stage before we can ever, get there. So I would say people come to me at kind of all different phases. Some are brand new. They're like, we know we need an AI strategy, but we don't know what it is. Sometimes it's like, we've got an AI strategy, but we're not showing up. So people come to me in all of those different areas. But I would say 9 times out of 10, I take them all the way back to the beginning, which is, let's align your brand properly and make sure we have the training documentation and a brand brain and all the things we need to train the AI. And then we can start adding more content, doing more, visibility work. But I don't want to do that until I know I've got the foundation in place.
Yeah, that's awesome. One last point that I'd like to cover, if you don't mind, is you mentioned it, being machine readable on your content and website. It definitely is a new one. I've noticed, I saw this great article on LinkedIn. Of course, I can't find it now, but I was talking to someone about it the other day. And it was giving examples of some tech companies that are making their websites machine readable. And their public-facing website still looks like it normally does to you and I, but they also have links out there that are just straight markdown files of their website. Can you dive into that topic a little bit more?
Yeah. So that's a very advanced way to go about it, to have sort of that background domain that, nobody can see. That's a big lift, which totally right for some businesses, for bigger businesses. But you can make it a lot easier than that. Putting schema on your website, if you don't already have it, that makes it machine readable. That can be really, really impactful. The reality is a machine looks at your website differently. It doesn't see colors and pretty animations and your visual. It's looking at content hierarchy. It's looking at structure. It's making sure that it all makes sense together. AI doesn't like to be confused, and it doesn't like to be wrong. So if you can't make it make sense to AI really fast, it's like, I'll go find another website that does make sense and give them that one instead. That's exactly what happens. So that machine content, readable content, starts with, it needs to be crawlable. I love vibe coding. I think it's awesome. But there are a lot of vibe code tools out there that don't render anything in HTML. And so when an AI bot comes to your website, they see like 2 lines of code and nothing else. That's never going to get you anywhere. So you need that server-side rendering. You need a pre-render. So that's that crawlability, super important. Clarity is the other one. Like I said, it likes to be clear. It likes to understand it. And then that content structure, your H1s, your H2s, like all of that stuff, still really, really important. But yeah, there's a bunch of strategies there. It can be as simple as like, let's reorganize the content on your website to make it a little easier to understand. And then as far, as you mentioned, of like, there's a whole ghost domain just for LLMs, right? So there's stages in between. You don't have to go that far, but you certainly can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Where's the best spot to send folks? I know you offer like a ton of free tools, resources, and you're active online. Where should people go?
Certainly my YouTube, it's under @HerAIagency. I do a lot of just kind of like short bite-sized train. I'm not into the like 2-hour deep dives into AI. It's too much for anybody. So I try to do like 10, 15-minute short practical things you can do today to get results. So certainly on my YouTube, lots of like resources there. And then from my website, you can also get to me, certainly, but then also I've got like a first 5 minutes audit that's really helpful for seeing where you might be losing people in that first 5 minutes and what your holes might be. That's a super valuable resource. So lots of resources on there. I'm on all the major social channels. So I'm pretty easy to find, but certainly hit the website, hit the YouTube. I would start there.
Sweet. I'll link everything in the show notes as well, but thanks so much again for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.